All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about one of the biggest shakeups to India's labor laws in, well, forever. It's a massive overhaul that's going to change the rules of work for millions of people. I mean, everything from how your salary is structured to your social security, it's all on the table.
But let's cut to the chase, right? The one question everyone's asking is my take-home salary actually going to go down? It's a fantastic question, and the answer, well, it's a little complicated, but it's really at the heart of what these new codes are all about.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get the big picture of this whole labor overall. Then we'll dive into what's happening with your salary. After that, we'll look at new protections for workers, the new day-to-day rules, what's in it for employers, and finally, we'll talk about the tricky part, actually putting all of this into practice.
First up, why was this massive change needed in the first place?
You have to understand, the old system was a mess. It was this tangled web of 29 different central laws. I mean, some of these were written before India was even independent. So the main goal here was just simplification, to take that entire library of rules and boil it all down into just 4 unified codes.
And here they are. These 4 codes are now the pillars of the entire labor landscape. You've got the code on wages, the industrial relations code, the code on social security, and the one for occupational safety, health, and working conditions. Together, these 4 basically redefine everything, from what it means to be a worker to what counts as a wage.
Okay, now for the part that I know you're waiting for, the part that hits your wallet directly. Let's talk about the new math of your paycheck.
So this is absolutely crucial. The government has basically created a brand new universal definition for the word wage. And here's the rule. Your basic pay must be at least 50% of your total pay, your CTC. That means all your other allowances, HRA, travel, all that extra stuff, can't be more than the other 50%. It's a 50-50 split, period.
Now, this table shows you exactly why that matters so much. See, for years, many companies would keep basic pay really low, say 30%, and pump up the allowances. Why? Because it meant they paid less into your provident fund and gratuity, since those are calculated on your basic. But now, that's over. With basic pay locked at a minimum of 50%, those contributions to your retirement funds are going to go up. So the trade-off is pretty clear. More money saved for your future, but yeah, maybe a little less cash in your bank account each month.
And another huge change is this idea of a universal minimum wage. Before, minimum wages only applied to certain specific jobs, this list of scheduled employment. That's all gone now. Instead, the central government is going to set a national floor rate, a baseline, and no state in the country can set their minimum wage lower than that. It creates a basic standard for literally every worker.
All right, next up, let's talk about how these new laws are expanding the safety net, especially for a group of workers that's just been growing like crazy.
So, for the very first time in Indian law, we have an official definition for gig worker. This is a massive category of people. We're talking freelancers, consultants, even your local plumber or carpenter who works on a project-by-project basis, outside that traditional 9-to-5 job.
And then, the law gets even more specific. It carves out a special category called platform worker. This is probably who you think of first. It's the person delivering your food from Zomato or the driver for your Uber ride. Basically, they're gig workers who use a digital platform, an app, to connect with customers.
And of course, the platforms themselves now have a legal name, aggregators. We're talking about the Ubers, the Swiggys, the urban companies of the world. They're the digital middlemen. And this new definition is super important because it comes with a brand new responsibility.
And this is how it's all going to work. It's actually pretty clever. First, those aggregators we just talked about, they'll have to contribute between 1% and 2% of their annual turnover into a big central social security fund. Then, that fund will be used to give benefits like healthcare, disability insurance, and even pensions to all those platform workers. It's a game changer, bringing millions of people into the social safety net for the very first time.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and look at the new rules that are going to change your actual day-to-day life at work. And there are some really strict new deadlines involved here.
You know how salary delays can be a real pain? Well, not anymore. The new codes make it crystal clear. Every employer has to pay their employees by the 7th of the next month. No ifs, ands, or buts. No exceptions.
And here's another one that will be a huge relief for many. You know the long wait for your full and final settlement when you leave a job? Now there's a super strict deadline, just 2 days. Whether you quit or you're let go, the company has to settle all your dues within 2 working days of your last day. That's it.
Same goes for gratuity.
That long-term benefit you earn, once it's payable, the company has a maximum of 30 days to get that money to you. The law is really clear on these timelines now.
And there's a bunch of other new mandatory rules too. Every single employee now has to get a formal appointment letter. All salaries have to be paid digitally, no more cash in hand stuff. For employees over 40, companies have to provide a free annual health checkup. And finally, women are now allowed to work night shifts, but, and this is a big but, only if they give their clear written consent.
Now, of course, these reforms aren't just a one-way street. There are also some pretty big changes aimed at making things, well, a little easier for employers. A huge part of this was to slash through all the red tape. The big idea is to move away from the old system where a business had to juggle multiple registrations, different licenses, endless forms for every little law, and move toward a future where there's just a single registration, a single license, and a single compliance form to handle all of it. A much simpler process.
And this is a really big deal, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. It used to be that if a company had more than 100 employees, they needed government approval for layoffs. Well, that number has now been tripled to 300. This gives a lot more companies the flexibility they need to adjust their workforce as their business changes.
So the laws have been passed by Parliament. But what about the journey from being a law on paper to being a reality in the workplace?
And this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? On paper, the laws have changed. But when will things actually feel different at work? You see, labor is a topic where both the central government and the state governments have a say. So even though the main codes are passed, every state still has to finalize its own specific rules. On top of that, think about the tech needed to build a single portal for all this stuff. That's a massive, massive challenge.
So in the end, there's no doubt this is a landmark reform. It completely reimagines the relationship between employers and employees in India. But its biggest test is still to come, actually turning these rules on paper into a reality on the ground. Making sure these ambitious new codes aren't just sitting in a law book, but are actually being felt in every single office, factory, and workplace across the country.